drawing room over here.
Oh, hey, come on in. If you're of a certain age in Australia, then this may ring a bell.
Together we'll show the world. We'll show the world. Together we'll show the world.
For anyone a little bit younger, that incredibly 80s song was the theme to the 1988 World Expo, which was held in Brisbane. It came at the end of the Joh Bjelke-Petersen reign as Premier and marked, alongside the Fitzgerald Inquiry, a significant change to the city of Brisbane. But how did Brisbane attract the event over its bigger siblings? And how did an event that was so mired in politics become a successful party? A new book, Will Show the World, looks back at Expo 88. Dr. Jackie Ryan is the author and she joins me in the drawing room. Welcome to the program.
Thanks very much for having me.
So, Jackie, take us back to the Expo. You have still got your season pass, I think. What was it like to be there at the time?
Oh, it really was wonderful. Sorry, I get too excited about it because I'm already taking myself back there and stuttering and stammering and looking around. It was so exciting, and part of the reason it was so exciting is because it was an incredible event, but the other reason is because there was so little before it. So it really was the catalyst for Brisbane's coming of age.
How did it change Brisbane?
Well, to have a successful World Exposition, you're going to have to attract big exhibitors, and nobody really wanted to come. They were a very risky event. But one canny American fellow who was one of the food hall exhibitors in Expo, he sort of came around in 1987 and was having a look around for some sort of sign as to why he should take a chance on Expo 88. And he was staying at the newly built Hilton in the city central mall there. And he noticed a number of people going up and down the glass elevator, and he intuited that they weren't actually staying. They all seemed a bit casual, and having too much fun in this glass elevator. And when one of the families, member of the family, started actually going, woohoo, he actually realised, okay, this is a city in which a ride in an elevator is actually a thing to sneak in and do because it's conceived of as fun. So I'm pretty sure it's worthwhile investing in Expo 88.
So give us a bit of background. What were the World Expos? Why was this a big thing for Australia?
Well, the first one was 1851. So they started in Britain, and they gave us things like the Eiffel Tower, like the Ferris wheel. They became these great events from which major cities could demonstrate their power and their strength, often through demonstrating industrial equipment and later through technology. And it was basically showing that you were the centre of progress. Now, as they started to fall out of favour, and that was intermittent, the highs and lows of expositions, but you started to get second-tier cities, which I will put Brisbane in, that were attempted to use the expositions as a way of growth or as for urban renewal. So you started to have them, even though they weren't the centre of culture, starting to say, if we had the exposition, maybe we can become the centre of culture. So the nature of expositions, or what the hosts hoped to get out of them, shifted a little when you had these smaller cities hosting them.
There were massive risks involved as well for host cities, weren't there? Because it wasn't all just, Eiffel Towers. We haven't got Eiffel Towers everywhere expos have happened.
No, there were when they went wrong, they went wrong very expensively and very publicly. You have some that ended, $1 billion in debt. You have some associated with falls in government. It becomes a very, very public event when it fails.
Okay, so clearly a massive risk. Why was Australia keen to hold one, and why Brisbane?
Gough Whitlam, he was a big fan. Gough Whitlam was the one that actually instigated it when he was in power. So he put in the expression of interest. He still had faith in them, even though there was been intermittently talk of the decline of world expositions for over a century, but it was still part of it. But he had faith that one could be a big success in a city capable of sustaining it, such as Sydney or Melbourne, which had the infrastructure and the population that ideally are suited towards having an exposition. So he's the one that suggested it, but Sydney and Melbourne, after doing some comprehensive investigations, realised that they were too risky and that sort of money would be better spent on health and education, which opened the door a little for ambitious risk-taking entrepreneurs of the Bjelke-Petersen government to say, well, we'll do it.
That's really interesting. So what, like the other cities, Melbourne and Sydney, said, no, it's just too risky. This isn't going to work. So Brisbane came through, I suppose, in the middle and went, yeah, we'll take the risk. What was the political culture like there to enable that kind of decision? Because it is something that sometimes voters are not so happy about. You see it when, the Commonwealth Games or the Olympics or any other big event is held, that voters sometimes get a bit grumpy and say, why are you spending all your money on this?
Well, it was cowboy country in Queensland. It was the Joh Bjelke-Petersen era. And you're correct that a lot of the voters weren't happy about it. A lot of them were ambivalent and a number were just confused because we hadn't had a World Exposition in the country for about a century. So not only was it this incredible risk, but there was very little to compare to understand what it was actually meant or what good would come of it. But that didn't matter because Bjelke-Petersen was a bit ambivalent to objections, particularly ambitions in Brisbane, which is not his voting base.
You quote Sir Lou Edwards, the Expo chairman, who said, and I quote, "You could not do an Expo today on a site like that." What did he mean by that?
In part because of the power that the government had, that they were able to just take 40 acres in the heart of the city and just, he himself said, turn up with a piece of paper to the Governor-General saying we're resuming this land. And of course there was a lot of controversy and outcry, but it didn't stop it because back in the day, that was possibly one of the last times with one of the last Queensland governments that could do whatever they wanted, and if they were determined enough. So this was probably the last big event that sort of determination and that sort of government could get through before you had systems in place such as the Fitzgerald inquiry that could temper that power a little.
So that site for the Expo, which is now South Bank in Brisbane, was central to the event. You say you couldn't do this now, but it did happen. That was not without controversy, though.
Oh, no, there were controversies left, right and centre. Obviously, there were a lot of businesses that were resumed for the area, and you also had controversies with the event, of course, being a bicentennial event, and Musgrave Park, which was a meeting space for a lot of First Nations people, that was resumed. It ended up being returned as surplus to needs, but you had objections there. You had people objecting to the event on account of it being a National Party government initiative, which a lot of people were suspicious of due to previous National Party government initiatives. So yeah, there were controversies all over the place. But again, at that time, in that day and age, pre-Fitzgerald inquiry, and with Joh still at the height of his powers, it didn't matter who objected if he was for it.
On RN, I'm Patricia Karvelis, and my guest in the drawing room is Jackie Ryan, and we're heading back to Expo 88. Do you remember it? I wonder if you remember it. You might be too young to remember it, but it was a pretty incredible event. What was the relationship between the federal and the state governments around Expo? Because you said Whitlam was really into this. He started things off, and he was long gone by then, though, and then Joh didn't get on that well with the federal governments. How did that whole piece work?
Yeah, not so much. And of course, Fraser government, which was the government that the interactions were with around that time, was very keen on, because it was a key bicentennial event, or it was going to be. So that was very keen that they thought that the natural place for that would be Sydney or Melbourne. So Fraser didn't want to have it there at all. And there's, of course, some interesting dodgy work in the Crossroads coming about how we did get that. And once we did secure the event, then by the time the event was actually on, or in the years leading up to it, you had the Hawke government in power and a lot of Labor states who were very resistant to taking part in what at that time was expected to be a Joh show. So why would we throw our support behind this person who was instrumental in deposing Whitlam and who is resistant to most Labor initiatives?
So on a more local level, taking us back to Expo 88 and the vibe, because you got pretty excited before, so...
It's still 30 years and we're still talking about it. That's all we do in Brisbane 30 years later. So yeah, I just zoned out there when you take me back. It's like, I can't talk now. I'm back there. I've got to go on the hovercraft.
Well, tell me on a more local level about setting up the entertainment schedule, because a lot of local artists thought they should be on the main stage, didn't they?
Yeah, the entertainment department had a bit on their hands there. Everybody did. What the entertainment division was trying to achieve was entertainment of an international standard. Now, we didn't have. They were attempting to have events from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day for 184 days. We did not have enough Brisbane local artists of international standard to
That is a
fill
lot
those
of
slots.
days.
That's a lot of days. So there was room for everyone. But of course, as part of their research, they'd travelled around to a lot of other world expositions and at other world entertainments, and they had seen the sort of entertainment that was out there and that could be shown to Brisbane and to the people of Brisbane. And their argument was that it's going to be okay. It's not going to take your jobs. These people can train you up and you can learn and be exposed to performers of an international calibre. But yes, there were, so our event, one of our larger events prior to Expo 88 was the Rowana Festival, and a lot of those regulars did expect to be given slots in Expo. Some of the producers I've spoken with said, every Betty ballerina and Betty ballerina's mother expected their child would be booked. There was a clown who was local in Brisbane who'd been around for 20 years or so, and he actually sent a letter of complaint directly to Lou Edwards that he hadn't been programmed, and he diplomatically referred it on to the entertainment division, and they sort of got back to him and said, but that's exactly why we haven't programmed you, because we're trying to introduce things that are new and show people, as it were, the world.
So there was an angry clown. That's
Very angry clown.
Sorry, but that sounds like a horror movie. All right. So back to this event. How did it become a success? I mean, it's because it's roundly considered a success, right?
Again, in small part, it was the absence of alternatives, but that, of course, is not going to be enough. But we'll start there. So before Expo, there were barely any even coffee shops, and certainly, the big events were maybe going and looking at the Christmas decorations in the Alan Stark building, work Christmas parties, entertaining in your backyard. So there was a lot less opportunity to get out and mingle and see, for want of a better expression, the world. And then suddenly when Expo came, you had access to, even if it's miniaturized versions of countries, it was still in a time where it was actually fairly expensive for people to travel. So a lot of people in Brisbane hadn't been exposed to a lot of these incredible cultural experiences that you get when you've got 38 international countries participating, along with 14 governments and about 24 corporate pavilions, all strutting their staff. So you have 6 months of this entertainment from 12 hours a day, which is enough for a cultural change. And you had people who were barely used to sort of leaving the house for entertainment. I mean, it's suddenly going and being entertained and laughing and speaking to strangers and learning to enjoy themselves. And of course, this is also in the middle of the Fitzgerald inquiry. So in the lead into Expo, there'd been, of course, some people would agree that Fitzgerald inquiry was certainly worth celebrating as well, but there'd been a lot of social and political hardship leading into the Fitzgerald inquiry. So in some ways, those two events coming together, for many people, it removed a barrier to the enjoyment of Expo, because you had this big party where once you had a state where people were discouraged from gathering together in groups of more than 3, and police might come up and see what you're doing.
What was your favourite thing there? Because as, I've reflected on a few times, your level of excitement is quite something. So given it was such a memory for you, paint me a picture of what you participated in that was, I suppose, life-changing for you in some ways.
This is one of the weirdest parts for me. So in about, I think it was 2003, there was a survey done of visitors' memories of Expo 88 and the Vancouver Expo 86 before it, and they asked people about their memories of Expo 88. And much to their surprise, and this is my experience as well, I don't have any specific memories of particular pavilions or particular educational experiences or seeing a particular show. On the most part, people just remembered being happy. They just remembered standing in a crowd, they remembered eating, they just remembered socializing all the time, and they just have this general sense of wonder. So they couldn't quite express it. It was just a wonderful place to be.
Has there been any reading into what that means? Is it just that, at least for, as you say, for 6 months, there was a deliberate attempt to really change the culture around Brisbane?
For me, I guess, my reading into what it means, which is one of the things that I'm looking at and the significance of Expo to Brisbane, is, of course, it established this sense of confidence, in part in tandem with the 1982 Commonwealth Games that had also successfully been held in Brisbane, although on a much smaller scale. That was sort of a 10-day event. this was a 6-month event that was very successful in terms of crowd numbers, because you had, if you look at just visitations, just visits to Expo, that there was actually a greater number than the population of Australia at the time. So it was certainly a success in terms of attendance figures. But also you had, Brisbane was very used to cultural cringe and very used to being a punchline and the butt of jokes of more sophisticated cities. But suddenly you had people coming in from those cities saying what a great time they were having, and isn't Brisbane coming along? And so it was a sense of confidence alongside just generally being happy at the event, and maybe this sense of positivity for the future, because this, alongside the Fitzgerald inquiry, was sort of this sense of hope that Brisbane was heading to a better, less police state sort of future.
That was 30 years ago. Australia has changed so much in the last 30 years. Could it happen again?
It would certainly be difficult in this environment. I think Sir Lou Edwards was right there. He seemed to think it would take at least 50 years, and it would take a Whitlam-like figure to be able to brave the various protests that go on now. And again, in a post-Fitzgerald environment, it's a lot more difficult just to force something through, even if you think it's for the greater good. Of course, expositions globally are still doing well in pockets of the world, especially Europe and Asia. So, and they're making money. So you had one in Shanghai in 2010 that had 75 million people pass through it. So it's still popular. It's still popular to channel that energy. Barbara Absalon, the Deputy Director of Entertainment of Expo, gave an example. She said, all of this stuff's supposed to be dead, or we don't need expos anymore. But, you don't need concerts anymore either. You could buy a CD, but that's not what people want. They want the experience. So if you had an energetic enough spokesman, a Whitlam-like figure, possibly coupled with a Bjelke-Petersen type figure, you could maybe get that done.
See if we could ever get that. People are going to start texting in now about that idea. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
Jackie Ryan has been my guest in the drawing room. Her new book, We'll Show the World, Expo 88, is out now.